This episode is brought to you by WSI Ottawa. Here's a question worth sitting with. When someone searches your business or asks AI, are you showing up? Because the way customers find businesses has fundamentally changed, and most small business owners don't even know they're invisible. WSI Ottawa has been on the leading edge of AI since day one. They're not just running ads and doing SEO. They're helping Canadian businesses integrate AI into their marketing, their operations, and their customer experience. We're talking AI strategy, custom implementation, and even hands-on AI training for your whole team through their WSI campus program. They also specialize in generative engine optimization, making sure your business gets found in the new world of AI-driven search, not just on Google. This is the future. WSI Ottawa can help you get there before your competitors do. Visit wsistrategies.com or call 613-424-7042.
Thanks, Shannon, for taking the time today to come on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Pat. I'm so happy to be here.
Why don't we start off, Shannon? Share with us a little bit about yourself and your company.
For sure. So I'm Shannon Ferguson. I'm the co-founder and CEO of FanSaves. FanSaves is basically a digital coupon book that sports fans can use to get discounts and deals from the sponsors of their favorite teams. So essentially, we've digitalized those old paper coupons that you used to get at sporting events, where fans could get like a free slice of pizza or free medium fries, and we've made that all digital, helping sports teams and sponsors track users and ROI, and helping those fans support sponsors.
And how long has the business been around now for?
We just celebrated 9 years, so I
Wow.
don't know how it's going to be a decade next year, but it's definitely been a whirlwind.
Uh, First off, congratulations, 9 years. That's a big milestone. 1 year away from the Big Ten. That'll be exciting for you. Um, you started this. Your background was your. Why don't you take us a little bit through your background before you got into entrepreneurship?
For sure. So my first business was actually a marketing and events business, and one of my clients was the new minor professional hockey team in Cornwall back in 2016. Um, it's actually such a funny story because one of the players, Chris McCarthy, ended up breaking his finger in a fight behind the net, and to keep him kind of on payroll, they brought him into the front office as the sales and marketing director. So he and I kind of joined forces. We took over all the marketing, sponsorship, sales, game day operations, essentially everything for that team. And then during the summer, we expanded into another team. So we were doing this for two teams, one in Cornwall, Ontario, one in upstate New York in Watertown. And we were running into the same problem when we were selling sponsorship. So we would go into a local business and we'd say, hey, do you want to put your logo on a rink board, a scoreboard ad, a wall sign, maybe in the game day program? And businesses were like, we want to support the team, but we've done this for a long time and we don't really know what the ROI is. We'd love something digital. We'd love something that actually can bring fans through our doors. And while they're here, track those customer demographics and that return on investment. So we didn't have anything like that. Nothing like that existed in the market. And essentially, that's how FanSaves was born, from us trying to make more sponsorship sales. And then in the process, we really validated the idea and decided to take it to the next level.
And now you have teams. What kind of geographical region are we talking now?
Yeah, so we've worked with over 150 different sports teams, different organizations all across North America. So from, California to Florida to Missouri, like literally almost every state across the US. Definitely lots of teams here in Canada as well. And we actually are just in the process of signing our first team in Europe. So
Wow.
pretty exciting to expand overseas, but really we've been international across North America. I'd say really from the get-go because of that first team we were piloting with in Watertown, New York. So we do find there's a little bit more, I would say, digital uptake in the US. But Canada is coming around, and I think there's so much to learn about digital landscape in Canada, and we've really been doing that and trying to crack that egg, and it's been working, but it just takes a little longer, I think.
So when you first broke into the marketplace, was it a difficult concept to get prospects to understand the offering?
I would say from the get-go, Chris is my co-founder, the hockey player that broke his finger. Chris and I, our background was always, strong in marketing and sales. And coming from that industry, we were able to say, hey, we've been in your shoes. So we're B2B. We sell to the team licenses FanSaves from us, and then they resell it to their sponsors. So it wasn't hard on that end. Um, the difficulty Chris and I always ran into was we're non-technical co-founders. So the
Mm,
most in the digital space I did was building websites and, social media. But coding an app back then, especially before the age of AI, and finding the right developers, that was always kind of what slowed us down, in the sense that obviously we wanted to have a good product, but we had to ensure that we had the right people building it. So for us, our marketing and our sales always grew faster than our product. Um, and selling the idea and the concept of fan saves in the early days was really the easy part. Then came the part about, let's make sure we have the right product, that can sustain this growth. So, yeah, I mean, it was always very easy to go into teams and say, hey, our product can help make you more sponsorship dollars. Are you in? And they're like, no brainer.
well, it's interesting because you said you started 9 years ago, and I can remember so many, unfortunately, horror stories from entrepreneurs that paid developers pretty significant amounts of money, didn't get the product they thought they'd get, or even when it was finished, then they wouldn't service it. I don't know what happened during that time frame. There was a period of about 3 years, kind of 6 to 9 years ago, where this just seemed to be a very common conversation I was having with other entrepreneurs. So you are right, with AI now, hopefully that'll streamline some of that and make it a bit more efficient. But that's pretty tough to, you sold something, then you got to deliver on it, right? That's kind of the message here. So is there anything you would have done differently back then, knowing what you know now in those early stages? I'm just trying to come up with any lessons you'd want to pass along to someone that's kind of going through that kind of same approach that you had back then.
Yeah, holy moly. Yeah, we're the first people to say, like, we consistently failed forward. Like,
Yeah.
no failing, more just learning. I would say again, like, going back to your point of AI, the landscape has completely changed. Um, so one of the big things, a lot of people come to me these days and they're like, "Hey, we want to build an app. How do we do it?" Should I just build an app on AI, like using AI? And my first answer is like, don't build a mobile app, because we started with a mobile app, and then 2 years later, we built our web app. So we still have a mobile app, but the web app is so much easier to update. It's basically the
Mm,
website, right? It's like an
mm,
integratable website. Um, when you build a web app that's accessible on a mobile phone, you can make those changes on the fly. You can, once you validate, you can change something. Whereas with a mobile app, you're up against, the App Store, the Google Play Store. You have to make sure those, you're following their rules, and it takes a bit longer once you put a change for that to, come about on, to the public. So a lot of people, have said, "Hey, I just want to build an app." So my first piece of advice is like, build a web app, validate that way, see what needs to be changed, make your updates there. No one is, essentially, there's less constraints.
mm-hmm.
And then once you validate it, once you have, your first few partners, maybe some revenue, and it makes sense, then you can, um, do your mobile app. So we did it the opposite way.
Mm,
And definitely, like, going back to your point, like, spent way too much money, had crazy experiences with developers, definitely got taken advantage of because we didn't know what we didn't know, so we
yeah.
trusted the wrong people. And essentially, like, it, not only did we lose money, but we lost really valuable time. And that, I think, looking back, is like the hardest part, because we were like, we just wanted to go, but our product wasn't there yet.
Is there a level of sports team that you've had the most success with in terms of like majors, minor pro? What does that look like for you?
Definitely. So we've worked with teams from 24 different sports leagues, which is really exciting. Different every sport, from hockey being our background was the easiest one to get into, but hockey, football, even like indoor ultimate frisbee, like for us, our big sweet spot is like the triple A teams, because one, they have enough resources to ensure this is promoted, marketed, sold properly. And they have a big enough fan base to continue to sustain it. The users are a little bit more they adopt technology, I'd say, a little easier. But a lot of people see our growth, because we've worked with even organizations like NASCAR, like major organizations who were also great to work with. Um, but a lot of you, even like the NHL, like we've signed like teams in the NHL, the red tape to get there took much longer than a AAA team who can just sign off. Like the top person who we've already talked to can just sign off that day or the next day. Whereas there's a lot more channels when you get to that major league level. So AAA, easier to sign, and then just easier execution, less people to go through. We had to start, like what I was saying is we didn't just get to that level overnight. We had to start with the smaller teams. We had to start not even just minor pro teams, like junior teams. And like Pat, I think you remember back in
Yeah.
those days. And that was really important for us to validate. But those smaller teams are wonderful. We want to work with them. Oftentimes, like a junior team might not have as many resources, so they might not have the right people that can not only execute on the marketing properly, but also execute on the sales to the sponsors and sell it in the way that it needs to be sold. So we're never ever against or working with any team. We have just seen a pattern that a smaller team might not get the results that a bigger team would. But that's not to say there have been some smaller teams that have absolutely knocked it out of the park and killed it. So yeah, it's hard to say. Some teams surprise us. Definitely the AAA level is a sweet spot though.
It's interesting though, isn't it, Shannon, that when you start a business like you have, like I have, in the beginning you take on whatever comes your way. Let's be honest, right? You want revenue coming in, you want to prove your model, you want to make tweaks and adjustments to that model, but eventually you find, okay, these are the people that are going to benefit most from what this product or service that I have. And I don't know if you can predetermine that. Yes, you can do a business plan ahead of time, and you can, I don't want to say guess, but you could no, you could guess, who your ideal, what your niche should be. But I find it's not until you get in there and get going a little bit till you realize that you're either on track or off track with who you thought your niche would be. Would you agree with that?
1000%. Like absolutely. And we also thought it would happen faster. Like we were like, we're gonna be in NHL teams by year two.
Yeah.
So you have to continue. Even those smaller teams that we worked with at the beginning were so valuable because we learned the fan behavior, the sponsor behavior. We learned so much from that. But yeah, you don't know what you don't know. So it's so important. And if any like entrepreneurs ever like, no, I don't want to work with a smaller client, it's like those are the clients that you should work with because there's, I don't want to say less to lose, but if your product isn't ready yet or you still have to fix some processes or anything like that, you have direct access to the people that you've sold to and you can ask them like one on one, hey, how can we fix this? And such a good example of this is through COVID, which, was obviously a difficult time for everyone. For FanSaves, it was good in a way because so many teams transitioned to digital. It forced them
Mhm.
to adapt. But for us, we were also like, well, with sports teams closed, who else can we help? So we really transitioned into also helping chambers of commerce, boards of trade, BIAs, tourism. And that was all exciting. And we absolutely can and do, in a way, still support those organizations. But we learned after a couple of years, we're like, that's not our niche. That
Mm,
isn't what is like firing people up, right? Like, yes, you can be a fan of a chamber of commerce, but we just found that people weren't as excited. You don't have that engaged audience where, the deals are coming up on the scoreboard and people are like scanning it with their QR code. So it's not even that the product wasn't good for them. They were using it. Just the delivery and the adoption by the user was different. And that's something we couldn't have known unless we actually tested it. And even when we started, we never thought that it was always sports on our mind. We never thought we'd be in the Chamber of Commerce world for so many years. So for entrepreneurs starting out, my advice is always like, you just need to learn as you go, and you need to be open that your business model might change, your customer model might change. Like, you don't know until you actually do it, and why not just test things out?
further to that, I always recommend to entrepreneurs, make sure you have some financial runway ahead of you. Like, you have to be prepared. You mentioned earlier, and we all went through it, that we think our business is going to grow faster than it does. Now, in some cases, yes, it does take off, but that's a very, very rare case, I find. Really, it's more of a 2, 3, 4, 5 year journey before you start to hit your stride. At least that was my experience anyway. So I think it's important, anyone listening that's maybe thinking of starting a business, if it's at all possible, to make sure that you have some money set aside in case it doesn't go as fast as you think it should. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. And Chris and I did it all wrong. Like,
Yeah.
we're very open about the struggles that we had, because again, it was both of our first times really growing a startup at this level. Like, I had owned a small marketing business. That's not the same as growing a startup where you have to, raise investments and you're getting grants and you're getting money from here and money from there. We literally found money in every corner of every room. Any money that we could find, we found it. We did a Kickstarter campaign. We won pitch competitions. We grinded, like, bootstrapped the heck out of this company. And even then, we were putting the money into the company before we were putting it into our own pockets, because
Mm-hmm.
we were like, we have to grow the business. We're going to put ourselves last. So 9 years later, if you ask me, would I do that again? I would absolutely say no,
Right. Right.
because the stress that it amounted to was like unbearable at times and so hard and so unnecessary. But for us, we're like, we have to grow our team, because if we grow our team, we'll get another grant. And we never missed payroll. We always made sure our employees were taken care of. Our team had grown so fast, and we were still putting ourselves last.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something, like, again, you you have to kind of learn it when you go through it. And it's something now that I actually like to talk about and tell other entrepreneurs, like, don't do this, please. Like, make sure that you're carving out some of this money for yourself, because I literally just did a presentation on bootstrapping 2 weeks ago, and I was like, when we would say ramen profitable, we actually started a clothing line, and we had t-shirts that said ramen profitable on them. I was like, that wasn't just a saying. Like, we were surviving on ramen noodles, like 99-cent ramen noodles, sometimes on special for 50 cents each. We lived that ramen profitable life while we were like literally traveling and living this very cool life. We, as Chris and Shannon, were putting all that money back in the company, and
Yeah.
like, for what? Now 9 years later, I was like, what were we doing?
Yeah. But like you said, it's a tough lesson to learn. So when people come to me for advice as to when they're starting out and say, okay, how much should I set aside to pay myself? I always say, well, what are you making now currently? And they give me a high number. I said, well, that may not be realistic, but you got to pay yourself at least enough to allow you to sleep at night. Pay your bills, um, be able to do the things that you would normally do within reason, but you have to be prepared that it's not always you're not going to just replace your salary overnight. That's not realistic. but to try to pay yourself first. So yeah, it's a tough lesson to learn for sure. And I'm glad you're open and speaking about it because we glorify entrepreneurship as this you know people doing things like you did, and sometimes that may not always be the best approach to grow a business. Sometimes it is, sometimes it does work, but sometimes it doesn't. It's a real fun. Really got to know yourself. You have to be really self-aware of what you can live with, what you can handle. Some people can handle that no problem, and other people need that a bit more stability coming in. So good lessons learned. Shannon, what advice we've kind of got into this now? The advice you would give to entrepreneurs that are listening, but what advice would you give to someone that's thinking of starting a business? Let's just say they're currently working full time because there's a lot of that out there, and they're just a little bit hesitant to make the jump.
Yeah. I am a big supporter or advocate of like saying, just start. So many people want things to be perfect, want their end vision to already be in sight before they like tie their shoes and start the race. And I always say, like I said it earlier, you don't know what you don't know, and your company is always going to be changing. Like you can't predict what's going to happen unless you start. And I always say I'm a recovering perfectionist. And I still have a lot of perfectionist tendencies. So I understand that a lot of people want to get it right. And they want to get it right because they're scared. They don't want to fail. They don't want to start a business, tell people, and then it fails. And then they look like a failure. So there's a lot of blocks that people have. Like, and they're mindset blocks. There are these subconscious blocks that we grow up with. And that is, I think, the biggest thing that gets in any entrepreneur's way. Because before they have even, again, like crossed that start line, they are already in their own way. And like if you're trying to get everything perfect before you buy a domain and set up a landing page, like no. Like you can do that right now. You don't have to have your full business plan. Like literally go buy a $20 domain and set up like now we live in it's even easier in this age of AI to get a couple of things done. And even if you're not using AI, just do it and you'll learn along the way. So I always tell people that, like, stop thinking you need to know everything because there's no way you know everything. You can't know everything until you do the things that you need to know. And in the moment, you're going to learn. Chris and I learned so many things along the way. We were like 6 months into the business, and I was like, I think we're a startup. Like, we didn't even know we were a startup, right? And he was like, oh, so too. So again, the age of the startup world is a little bit different now.
Yeah.
But um again, you if someone had told me, hey, like from the beginning, you're gonna learn like this in 3 years and 5 years and 7 years and 9 years, like I'm still learning. I would have been like, what does that even mean? I don't even know. Like if, we even an MVP, like when we started, like when we figured out we were a startup, I was also like, oh, a minimum viable product. Okay, an MVP. Yeah, we've had that for like 3 or 4 months. So even the lingo, the terminology, there's so much. You can read books for days, years, but until you're actually immersed in it, until you're like on that race, on that run up that hill,
Yeah.
that is only when you can learn like what it's like. So I always say, don't get in your own way from the beginning. Just start small and grow from there.
And what advice would you give to someone that's currently running a business that's struggling? Because we've all been there.
Keep going. If you're in the middle of the race, don't stop. Lots of race analogies right now. Chris is like training. He's been trying to he wants to do a marathon. Like
Oh, nice.
so, he's been doing a lot of running. So that's probably top of mind for me. Um, but um, again, like if you're going through hell, just keep going. You're not stopping in the middle of the heat. You have to just get to the other side. And it's it's wild to be a startup that's been around for 9 years, because we have seen so many other founders not
Yeah.
make it in that sense. And it's really sad because we become friends with people along the way, and companies we pitched against early days, and then you look and you're like, they won that pitch competition, or they got second or third place and we didn't even podium. And now you look back and we're like literally 99% of the companies we pitched against, we lost against, like they don't exist anymore.
Wow.
So when you're down, when you're out, when you're literally at your lowest, keep going. But also, what I would say, using the friends of mine that I've seen where their company hasn't made it, it's like also know when when to stop,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
I think that's also like when you're an entrepreneur, you have so much pride. Your ego like is, weaved into this business. So if let's say you're on this race and you break your leg and you can't continue, then know that you can't continue. But if there is nothing, if it's just your will that is shaking, keep going.
But at the end of the day, I think what you're saying, Shannon, at the end of the day, the market will decide, right? We can have all the
Yeah.
willpower we want. We can have all the passion we want about our product or service. But if people aren't buying it and your sales
Mhm.
process is buttoned down, your marketing is good, like you said, the break a leg analogy, that may be the time to say, okay, this is, but if it's not that and you're just struggling, don't feel bad because we all go through it and we all go through it multiple times. You're not just going to struggle. I think that's really important for people to understand. You're not just going to struggle in year one and never struggle again. That's not the reality of it. And to our listeners, Shannon mentioned earlier that she's still learning after 9 years. Well, I'm still learning after a lot more than 9 years. It's this ongoing learning process, and you have to be open to that learning because it's really the only way you're going to grow your business, and it's only the way you're going to grow yourself personally, which in turn will help you grow the business.
Absolutely. And just like you said too, exactly, that breaking a leg analogy. It is the market that decides. And if this business is something you're passionate about, you know, go back to the beginning. Figure out what went wrong. If your leg is, maybe it's just sprained, it's not broken. There's Figure out, why isn't the market eating this up like I thought it would be? Like, where is the disconnect? Um and really, like, Chris and I are kind of obsessed with that. Like, we're always like, where can we improve? Like, where can we get better? Where are the things that are going wrong? Where are the things, like, why do people think this when we're saying this? Like, the messaging is here, but why are people will still say, "Oh, but I'm not a sports fan." And we're like, "You don't need to be a sports fan." Like, literally, you just need to follow a team like you do on Instagram. And they're like, "Oh." So, literally, like, always rejigging and crafting your messaging, how you're um and your product, and how you're like explaining things. So a lot of people, I think, get tired and they get discouraged, and they do have a good, business or a good product, but they get really tired along the way, and then they just think, okay, well, this is it. And Chris and I have said that too. Like, we're so grateful that we are co-founders and have each other, because if I was on this journey alone, I would have given up way long ago. And he
Mm-hmm.
says the same thing. So you have to find the right team and put the right people around you to ensure that on your low days, they're picking you up, and on their low days, you're picking them up.
That's great advice, Shannon. We're almost out of time. Before we let you go, Shannon, where can our listeners find out more about FanSaves?
For sure. So fansaves.com is a great place to start. Also, like I said, we are on the App Store, the Google Play Store, if people do want to, start getting some deals. But also, all our socials, LinkedIn. If anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn personally, I love that. I love helping other entrepreneurs. I always encourage people to reach out to me directly, in a DM. So yeah, any socials, our websites, and yeah, check out FanSaves. Like I said, you don't have to be a hardcore sports fan to get those deals.
Thanks so much for your time, Shannon. It was great to reconnect with you.
Thank you, Pat.